Welcome to Star Citizen's Addicts Anonymous with your host, Nikki Batgirl D'Angelo. I'm here today just as we're reaching $23 million. Yes, the game theoretically is fully funded. Congratulations, CIG, and every one of us, because we're all part of it. This isn't just the game developers, we're all part of making this the best damn space simulator ever. In the last week, there's been a lot of things that have been going on. Last week we had the live stream, and I got a chance to sit down and finally watch it after trying to watch it on Thursday and actually having to watch it on Friday because there were just too many problems that we can mention here. And let's just say it was a very, very, very wonderful first try. I pulled one piece of news out of there that's very exciting for me. Erin Roberts, who is Chris Roberts' brother, was announced as joining the team, joining CIG, and they announced creating a second headquarters in Manchester, England. And Erin is going to be in charge of the mission structure for Squadron 42. We rarely hear about that. Most people are talking about Star Citizen, because they want to be pirates, they want to do PvP, they want to have their own organizations and have hundreds of people online at once. I do too. But I am such a sucker for the Wing Commander games. I love them. Specifically 2, 3, and 4 because of the voiceover and then the live acting later on. Wing Commander 1 took, it captured me, but Wing Commanders 2, 3, and 4 solidified that love for the genre. And with Erin Roberts on board, that means that Squadron 42, which is not just going to be one single game, but it's going to be a number of expansions after that game, is in the right hands. Welcome to the team, and thank you so much for taking part. Now, back to tomorrow. Tomorrow's a big day. We have Wingman's Hangar 42 at 11 Central, 12 Eastern, and I gotta do my UDT. I guess that's 5 o'clock in Greenwich time. And when they're on, they're probably going to be discussing a lot of things that have to do with the Hornet variants. Now that means more money out of our pockets this weekend. So before that happens, we are going to be seeing the Aurora LN disappear, I believe. It was supposed to be for sale for a week, and that's over tomorrow. So you have one last chance to buy that before spending more money on the Anvil Dynamics Hornet. And there should be at least one variant, but we've seen some sneak peeks at a couple of others, I think. I saw something in the subscribers den about one that looked like it had an AWACS radar on top. Also available for sale are polo shirts, no girl sizes, so I'm finding it hard to purchase, but also hard to walk away from. And mouse pads. But not just any mouse pad. Large mouse pads. Well, not large mouse pads. Giant mouse pads. Well, that's not it either. Huge mouse pads? No, they're Goliath mouse pads, which would be great for an MMO. But this is going to be a Twitch game, and if I have that really, really big mouse pad, where am I going to put my throttle and my stick? I mean, it's going to get in the way, right? Because I have to have my keyboard. I'm just kidding. So they offer artwork in 3 different versions, and they're all $35, and they're all 36 by 11, and that's really 36 and a quarter by 11 and a half. And the 3 different artworks are based on the RSI. Looks like the Aurora. It's really tiny on my screen. Hold on, let me zoom in. Yeah, you have an Aurora and a Connie. And then of course you have the Anvil with the Gladiator and the Hornet. And you have the M50 and the 300 inside of the Origin ones. So take a look at it and get out there and spend more money, because this is physical stuff that you can actually put on your desk and use now. That is all that I'm going to do for news today. I think I've taken enough of your time. Thank you so much for listening, and now comes the next part of my show. Welcome to my first dissection of one of the spacecraft in Star Citizen's universe. Now remember, Star Citizen is going to be 2 games. It's going to be the Squadron 42 campaign, and it's going to be the Star Citizen Persistent Universe. So this ship is going to be, from what I understand, in the Star Citizen Persistent Universe. It's one of the ships that we were able to buy. This is the Origin Jumpworks 325A. So to begin this, we're just going to talk a little bit about Origin. Origin was an Earth-born company. It started in the Bavarian Alps, I guess, or in Bavaria. So this company is the BMW of the Star Citizen universe. In fact, when Chris Roberts explained this ship, it was luxurious. It was gorgeous inside. It was going to be kick butt, but also feel good to sit in and look really hot. And when you look at the commercial for this the spacecraft, it really does get you going like, I gotta have one of those. And it was one of the first upgrades I made after initially pledging for an Aurora. I really like it. It's a beautiful, beautiful ship. Origin Jumpworks started in the mid-28th century. Subsequently, they moved, recently, I guess, in the universe, to Terra Prime, and they are the main employer of the city of New Austin, which is the main landing port that we're going to have on that planet. So what they create right now, or what they make right now, there are Origin 200 series, 300 series, 600 series, and the M50. The 300 series seems to be, if you put it into terms of BMW, the everybody's vehicle. So you have different classes. 300i is just the luxury touring coupe. Can call it a coupe, but it's really a beautiful aircraft. It comes with two of the laser weapons that we see over here on each side. One on each side, I should say. The 315P is outfitted with sensors, a tractor beam, and a bigger thruster, and it's able to make much longer stays in space without refueling. It's a primary single-person exploration vessel. In this game, we're going to be able to explore unknown space, discover jump points, and that's what that one's going to be for. This is the top end of those three. There's one above this, but its frame is based on this, but somewhat different. This one is decked out for interdiction. It's your escort. It's your hit and fade fighter. It's your let me get into the firefight and take out some pirates or some of the enemy. I like this aircraft because of what we're looking at right here. This is one big giant cannon in the front. It's a mass driver. And when I look at this, because I'm a historian, I think of one thing. I think of the P-38 Lightning. And while that wasn't the most maneuverable fighter, while it wasn't the most heavily armed fighter, while it wasn't the most armored fighter, it was one of the best fighters of World War II. In fact, one of our greatest aces in the United States flew that aircraft, Richard Bong. He was credited with shooting down pretty much a sitting duck, a Mitsubishi Betty that was carrying Admiral Yamamoto, who was the mastermind behind the attack on Pearl Harbor back in 1941. And I understand that I am talking to people all over the world, so I can tell you that I know about other aircraft also, and I have great loves for aircraft of all nations. So we're just talking about this one right here because Origin Jumpworks, if you think about it, they're looking like the Lockheed Skunk Works, and I believe that some of these spacecraft are going to take after some of the aircraft that are in our world today. In fact, this bore a striking resemblance to the actual F-22 Lightning II when they, I like to call it the Raptor, when they actually started to flesh out the different artwork for it, but settled on this in the end. So we're going to walk around this in just 1 second. Since we're right here in the front, let's talk about this mass driver. A mass driver hits hard. It's like a fist coming at your face, only it's covered with iron and lead and cobalt. So a mass driver it's very heavy hitting. Only it's got a much shorter range than lasers and neutron guns, and much more limited ammo, I should say. This one is a Klaus and Warner, and this is an entry-level cannon mass driver. All the weapons in this game are pretty much entry-level, and we'll be able to upgrade them and overclock them and mod them as time goes on. So that's the first weapon we're going to talk about. As we move off to the right wingtip over here, we have one of the two Einar Amaniski 6 laser cannons. They are entry level again, but they're cannons. They're going to have a lower fire rate than a repeater, but they're going to carry a bigger punch. Lasers have a much longer range. So as this ship is closing in on the other ones, it's going to take down the shields with these lasers, and then it's going to hit them hard as it gets closer and closer to the actual prey with that mass driver cannon. I guess I shouldn't call it a cannon. A mass driver is just that, a mass driver. Also, which we can't see in this picture, there's an engine right about dead center, right there. It's probably underneath the thruster's scoop, and that engine is a WeTech LFT Durability Plus. I believe it's a TF3 engine, but I'll have to check on that, and you can look below. I'll have it there. As we move back here, we have some image recognition or infrared. I think they're image recognition missiles in actuality. In prior versions of the hangar, they actually showed up on the 325A and had a glowing nose, kind of like a Maverick missile, which would lead me to believe that they were definitely image recognition, kind of like a TV style. Harder to spoof, but definitely entry level. And these are the actual, if I get this right, the Talon Stalker IR twins. So really armored, really armed to the tooth right now with 2 missile launchers, 2 laser cannons, and a mass driver. As we come back to the rear end of the ship, we have a TR3 main thruster. It's the Hammer Propulsion HE 5.3. And we've got a nice little stance back here. This definitely looks like something that could be in any one of the inventories of any of the countries in the world. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous aircraft. And I'm going to call it an aircraft a lot because it really looks like one. It's beautiful. Some of these designers should probably work for some of the aerospace firms. So we're going to come around to the side of the spacecraft, and we're going to walk up to it and use our F key, and we're going to click on it, and we are going to open up the unit to talk about the inside. So let's just go into that mode and go up the ladder. As we enter the 325, you're going to see the portion of the spacecraft that I consider unfinished. I do not believe this is what I do not believe this is what Origin Jumpworks is going to leave us with as a finished product, aka Cloud Imperial Games. I think that, there are things that could be in here that would make a long stay a little bit better. And one of those things would definitely be a bathroom of some type and a place to sit and eat. The bed and the actual beautiful throne of a seat up front is taken care of. And we're just going to shoot through the views so we could see it. So here you can see the leather attunements. They are gorgeous. Just makes it look like a beautiful ship. There's the docking collar, so if you take out a ship, you could dock next to it and pretty much enter it if you needed to. There's a display back here, really not for anything at this particular point. It's still a placeholder. And a fire extinguisher. Hard to get to if the fire is between you and it. And up here, up there is something incredible, and we're just not going to look at it right now, I guess. They moved it way up. Either that or they have the ducking in much better. That up there says something really wild. Alright, so this is the interior that's supposed to hold all the stuff that you need for a long-range flight and 8 tons of cargo. Still don't believe that part of it yet. I think that there might be something slung underneath for cargo. So as we move up, we're going to enter the captain's chair. Yeah, they did have him crouching down a little bit better. So this is the 325A's cockpit. It's the same cockpit that's in the other 3 models. Every button, knob, and switch and dial is movable according to Chris Roberts, and we will get there at some point. The actual displays are placeholders and will be filled in with actual working displays as time goes on. The control surface, this thing uses a yoke, and I'm sure that in the future they will fix the animations, because you can't be having your person jerking around, especially when it could pull the screen when you're in a dogfight. And that's not the way a real aircraft would be. This would look nicer with the actual side sticks, but I understand the yoke and definitely support it. So that's our cockpit. It's really gorgeous. So we're going to use the camera angles on this 3D camera right now just to get some better shots of it. The first shot I want of it is going to be right up here and looking at the mass driver again, but specifically to the right and left to the very front. You're going to see 2, 4, 6, and if we went back, we would start counting up 12 TR1 thrusters. If you look at the Avenger that I showed you in the last video, they were a lot bigger than this, which leads me to believe that the non-updated ship specs, which don't expect it to be updated for some time, are incorrect on the Avenger, and they probably have TR2s. These are much smaller than what's on the Avenger, but there's 12 of them around this whole spacecraft, which makes it very, very, very maneuverable. So we've got a fast ship that's also maneuverable. We're going to slide back in here, and we're going to go, oh, there must be an extension ladder that helps out climbing out of here up there. Sometimes if you just clip through the actual walls, you find things like right in here. We find the actual bed. This is the bed that will fold out into the center area for our pilots to sleep. Now, the beds are important because if you're in long-range missions and your spouse, like me, is calling you and saying, honey, dinner's ready, you better come running. And the only way you're going to be able to do that safely in space is to get in your bunk and go to sleep. At least that's one of the theories or one of the statements that the devs have made. So we can keep going back if we wanted to, but what I'm going to do at this point is I am just going to take Mr. Bold Guy. I can't wait until the female models are released. They look so good. Everything from average girl that you would call a WM in the Marines to, well, I guess some of the pictures wouldn't be good for actual working in real life. Most of the spacecraft that they make, you can get on top of in different ways. I think the Freelancer is the hardest one. I don't think there is a way, but I've been up on top of the Connie and this item and the Aurora and the Avenger and just took a look from up top. Even in areas where there wouldn't normally be somebody to look so closely at the spacecraft, they have an incredibly large amount of detail, and I wonder what kind of a processor and graphic card we're going to need when we've got 5 or 6 of these, 7 or 8, 10 or 12, or Eve-like 100 ship furballs going on. I don't know if we're ever going to get to that, because I think everybody's system would melt. but really gorgeous ship. This scoop over here, just to talk a little bit about the physics of the game. Yes, you can run out of fuel in space. The bigger the scoop, the more hydrogen you scoop in interstellar space. The more hydrogen you scoop, the longer you last. Hydrogen scooping is a way of creating more fuel for your engines. And the bigger the scoop, the more fuel you're going to get, which is why that Aurora LN over there has that big scoop on top, which makes it just a little bit better than the Aurora MR and LX that does not have that. So we're just going to go over here, and these are just giving you an idea of the last missing maneuvering thrusters. So there were 2 up there, and there's a bunch over here. There's 2 there and 2 there. So we've got 12 maneuvering thrusters, huge engines and thrusters, and lots of armament for this spacecraft. The 325A, while not the perfect solution for every situation, is definitely a wonderful civilian solution for most situations. So that's my briefing on this. So let's talk a little bit, just for a few moments, of 325A versus the Avenger. So there's a lot of talk on the subscribers den, I should say, and across the general chat over which one's better. So let's talk about that. That's going to be something that we have to evaluate just ever so slightly. We don't have the specs on these. So let's step back here and take a look at both ships. Visibility-wise, the Avenger has a slight edge. Armor-wise, the Avenger has an edge. Armament-wise, I don't think it's a draw right out of the hangar door. I think it's slightly in favor of the 325A because it comes with all the upgrades. Over time, I think the Avenger could be a little bit more kick butt. Shield-wise, I think they're going to be about even, but armor-wise, that Avenger is definitely going to have a much, much, much better chance if the shields go down. I guess if you look to the left and look at the 325A, if you've played Wing Commander, think of the Rapier. Think of something much heavier and much better armored, if you're thinking about the Avenger. So, neither one of these aircraft are going to be better than the other when the game starts. It's really going to come down to the actual skill of the pilot. And for this, I can talk a tiny bit about Vietnam. Vietnam, you saw the face-off of one of the greatest American fighters against one of the greatest Soviet Union fighters. The F-4 versus the MiG-21. The MiG-21 was lighter. It had better acceleration. It was much more maneuverable. And it was able to almost not be seen from a distance. The F-4, early in the deployment in Vietnam, when the MiG-21 started to come out, so we're talking about late 60s, not early 60s, before the F-4 and the MiG-21s. But the F-4 was plagued with a couple of things. It was very poor in maneuverability. Its engines puffed smoke out the rear end. And the thing just really, you probably couldn't get that thing to move fast. I mean, it had a Mach 2 plus top speed, but it definitely didn't have the acceleration. As time went on, the Americans started something called Red Flag. If anyone's seen Top Gun, it's kind of like Top Gun. So the American pilots started to get trained in dissimilar air combat. New innovations were put on the F-4. Dogfighting slats, a little bit better engine, and a nose-mounted gun. Kind of like the one on our left and the one on our right over there. When it came down to the end, the American pilots were better trained than the North Vietnamese pilots. And the kill ratio started going up. There were very few MiG-21s. but on the days when they did field them, they went down fast. So it's not saying which aircraft is better, which aircraft or spacecraft in this situation is better. It's going to be how well you fly it. This game is not WoW. This game is not Guild Wars. It's not EverQuest. You're not leveling up and getting better and using hit points. This game is all about Twitch control. How can you handle the controls that you're using to fly the ship? What's your situational awareness? And how well do you understand air combat maneuvers? That's all I have on the 325A today. I hope everybody had a good time listening to me talk. I hope to bring you some more in the future. Please send me an email at theaddictedgamer@gmail.com and tell me which spacecraft you want me to do next. This next segment is something I hope all of you would participate in the future. It's called Confessions of a Star Citizen Addict. Well, the whole buy and melt thing is the fastest path to finding yourself spending so much money on the game. What happens is this. You buy an Aurora package for $30. After a while, you melt it and buy the digital mercenary for a little bit more. It's only $10 more, but you justify it by saying it gives you alpha and beta access to the game. Then you see the new 300i. And then you're seeing the commercial and you really want it. So you melt your Aurora and you trade it in for the digital bounty hunter package. It's only a little bit more money. I mean, it's $25. You can handle it. So you buy it, you run around it, and you love it. But then you look in the brochure, and the 325A, it just looks so badass, and it has all those weapons. So you melt out your digital bounty hunter package, and you jump into a digital arbiter. After a while, maybe a day, a 2, 3, maybe 3 hours, you're looking at your 325A, and it looks really lonely. Next thing you know, you're buying an Aurora. You buy the Aurora, you're looking at the Freelancer, and you're going, God, I wish I could buy that. And then you look at the Aurora, and you go, well, I've already have $105, and it's only $140 to get up to the digital Freelancer package. So you buy the digital Freelancer package. Next thing you know, you are looking at a Freelancer in an empty hangar. So you buy an Aurora. But you don't want the Aurora and the Freelancer, so you melt it and you buy a 325A. You get the 325A and you like it, but then you get the Aurora again because you want a hangar with 3 things in it. A little bit down the road, you're looking around, you see the Rear Admiral package, and you say, you know what, I really want that because Connie's such a beautiful ship. So you melt everything and you buy the Rear Admiral package. And all I can say, what comes next is a rinse and repeat. Next thing you know, you're a Vice Admiral and you spent more money on the game than you have your car payment and your mortgage payment. Oh my Lord, please help me. This is Star Citizens Addicts Anonymous. We're not here to rehabilitate you. We're only here to help propagate that wonderful addiction you have. Thanks for listening. You'll have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you next week, right after Hornets come out. Bye, all.